So there was this guy named Ju In-gong. People like to make fun of his name because it literally meant protagonist in Korean. Well, that was funny, but In-gong was not about to let that stop him. He always said he was going to be the main character of his own life, no matter what anyone thought. On this special day, he was super excited. The new version of his favorite game, Night Saga, had just hit the store. He really loved this game. It was all about humans and demons fighting each other, and players could choose either Locke, the human hero, or Prince Zephyr, the first demon prince, then go on wild quests. The awesome part? This new version was the first VR release. In-gong had played the PC version when he was a kid, so he felt totally ready for this new VR experience. He thought he knew every trick inside the game, so he would be OP. As soon as he got home, he didn't waste any time. Nope, not even a snack break. He jumped straight into the game, telling himself he would not play more than 8 hours. Bro tried hard also to touch the grass when being a gamer, right? But then, things got really strange. Instead of waking up in a game bed like usual, at the respawn point, he opened his eyes and realized there was something very odd about his character. Where the fuck is this? Right away, an ogre came into his tent and, dude, that gave our MC a big excitement. This game felt way too real. On top of that, this ogre could actually talk to him, which was not part of any ad he had seen. Why is the character AI this good? In-gong then asked the ogre's name. Yet the ogre wondered if our protagonist had forgotten his name. In-gong replied, yes, and found out the ogre was called Karak. Karak looked at him kind of funny, and wondered why his prince didn't remember his own servant. Then Karak left, reminding him that everyone was waiting outside and calling him Prince Shutra. At that moment, things clicked. Shutra? Huh, In-gong knew that name. So he was the 9th prince of the demon world now. Alright, mystery solved, sort of. But he was super confused, because the game did not let him choose this weak character. Never mind, he opened up his status window to check his stats. What he saw made his jaw drop, bro. His stats were lower than a random NPC. Even though he was a prince. What horrible luck. Next, he checked his skills. He only had 2, Conquest and Protagonist Setting Adjustment. What the fuck is Protagonist Setting Adjustment, lol? Thank God our MC was pretty smart. He kind of guessed what the second skill did, but before he could figure it out, Karak came back to call him outside. Outside, there were rows of ogres standing at attention, like a little army. In-gong, which now I will call Shutra, saw this and wondered if there was about to be a war. Karak rolled his eyes and told him not to act weird. They just needed to go, because there was a battle coming with the Scarlet Lightning tribe. Whoa, wait, right away? A war? No tutorial or anything? That was not cool. He thought this game was pretty intense. Then, Shutra learned that his job was to support the 7th prince and 8th princess in their fight against the Scarlet Lightning ogres, who were starting an uprising. But when he looked around, he noticed he had only 10 soldiers on his side. Shutra said out loud that it was scary to fight with just a few people, but Karak thought it was weird because yesterday, his prince had said it was only a patrol mission. Trying not to panic, Shutra opened his minimap and saw a shortcut. He told Karak to follow him, even if Karak was stressed about skipping the main path. So, they walked through the woods and climbed a cliff. Man, that was exhausting for Shutra as his stat was weak as hell. Karak stared in shock when they found a strange gate at the top. Cool shortcut, but dang. Shutra was really tired, and Karak started to worry. Suddenly, golden light wrapped around Shutra, and a notification popped up. He had leveled up. What? Just from walking? Not only did he level up, but his stats even got better. He got 2 points added automatically and 2 extra to use as he wanted. Sweet. So he could get experience points for everything he does, not only through fighting. Yet his troops yelled for him to keep moving. Shutra took a deep breath, wondering if this place was safe. In the end, he walked into the gate because, hey, he wasn't alone, and he trusted his plot armor skill, the protagonist setting adjustment thing. Inside, they found a cave. Karak looked at it and said it must have been built by dwarves. There was a rumor that all the dwarves had left Demon Land long ago. As they moved ahead, treasure suddenly sparkled in the darkness. The ogres got super excited and started looting, thinking these treasures were left behind by dwarves. Shutra looked around, hoping to find something useful for himself, but no luck there. All the items were way above his level or didn't match his magic skills. Some were even too heavy to lift. Bummer. So, he tried something else. Maybe he could take all of this and sell it later. So, he checked for inventory skill. Nice, he had one. All he had to do was touch an item and think about it, and boom, it went straight into his storage. Handy, right? But then, he saw on his map that the Scarlet Lightning tribe was coming straight at them. He shouted to everyone to be careful. The next thing you know, the wall exploded, and the Scarlet Lightning Gang rushed in, led by their boss, Kei-chen. Man, these red ogres looked angry. Battle broke out instantly between the green and red ogres while Shutra stood there, lost. What could he even do? He was just a weak prince character. He decided to get brave and take down a few enemies to score some experience points, but it didn't go as planned. He slashed at a red ogre, but his sword snapped off that tough ogre skin. The red ogre turned to attack him, so Shutra bolted, tripped over a rock, and slammed into the ground. Dude, his HP dropped down to just 1 point. Right when the red ogre was about to smash him, Carrick jumped in, took out the enemy, and dragged Shutra away, telling him to run. Our MC was really shaken up. He thought, that's enough for today, time to log out. But when he opened the main menu, guess what? The buttons were missing. Even worse, there was no option to log out. That meant one thing, he was totally stuck inside the game. Crap! Before he could even process that, Kei-chen stepped up and blasted him with telekinetic magic. Shutra didn't want to die here, but the power drained him so bad that his eyes got heavy and his HP hit 0. Game over? Maybe not. He opened his eyes and found himself floating in a strange void. For a second, he thought he was done for. But, out of nowhere, a bright light shined on him and a woman appeared. She told him that he was the fated one who had come and gave him some cryptic advice: conquer, enslave, and rule. Before he could even ask more, a beam of light struck him, and then he was back, alive, right in the middle of the battlefield. All around him, the green and red ogres fought like crazy. Kei-chan thought the green ogres were idiots for showing up with such a weak crew. He ordered his goons to wipe them out. Then, he spotted Shutra glowing with golden light. A message appeared, telling Shutra that he had just awakened the power of telekinesis. He had no idea how he got this new skill, but when he checked, he saw it was part of his Knight of Conquest skill set. Seeing a prince that died literally 1 second ago, abruptly alive again, Kei-chan didn't care and yelled for his tribe to go after Shutra. Thankfully, the green ogres rushed to protect their prince, forming a circle. Meanwhile, Shutra stared at all the pop-ups on his screen. He still didn't really understand the Knight of Conquest subclass, but it suddenly made sense to him, like his body already knew how to use it. He focused and activated his Under the King's Banner skill. This gave every ally around him a huge power boost, just in time for the next round of chaos. So, after Shutra fired up his big skill, every green ogre suddenly felt like a superhero. They were buzzing with power, like actually glowing up on the spot. The green ogres went wild and charged the enemy with full force, just wiping the red ogres out. Easy win, dude. Kei-chen watched this happen and just could not believe how strong the green ogres became so suddenly. He figured out the source in seconds. It had to be Shutra doing some funky, weird magic from the back. Kei-chan tossed a spell at him fast, but Carrick jumped right in and blocked it. Shutra used his power skill again, making Carrick even stronger, and told him to handle it. Carrick did not mess around. He cut Kei-chan's neck in one slick move. That was that. The leader was down, so the Crimson Lightning Ogres freaked out and started to run away after their boss dead. But there was no escape for them. The chase was on. As the battle wrapped up, Shutra just stared as a streak of level-up notifications lit up his view. That shocked him. Meanwhile, Carrick checked his boss and thought it was fishy. Maybe Shutra was behind all this sudden strength. But how? He never knew the last prince had some cool skill like this. With the excitement over, things cooled down. The ogres settled back in their tents for some rest. Back in his own tent, Shutra was still frustrated. No logout button, no way home. He tried not to panic, thinking maybe it was just a game bug that needed a quick patch. But then, a darker thought crept in. What if this wasn't a game? What if this was for real? Oof, that was heavy. He looked around and realized that everything, from the way the NPCs talked to the uncensored stuff he noticed, felt super real. Just like characters who wake up in other worlds. He thought this was like a pretty famous isekai story from Manhwa. He once saw the same kind of story from a YouTube recap channel. At least he wasn't born as a complete monster, right? Being a prince sounded way better than being a green blob or slime. But hey, maybe Shutra didn't know about Rimuru Tempest. Suddenly, Carrick called him out for a sparring match. Shutra had no clue why, but Carrick explained that he needed to measure his prince's sword skills. Shutra tried to act all princely, teasing Carrick for speaking so casually. But when it was time to swing swords, bro, Shutra could not land a single solid hit. Carrick totally schooled him, knocking him off balance in one strike. When Carrick asked if he was okay, Shutra grumbled, saying this stupid ogre should not have attacked so suddenly. Just then, a surprise. Shutra got a new skill notification for basic swordsmanship. At first, he didn't get it. How did he learn this? Then he suddenly remembered. When Kai-chan attacked him with telekinesis, he somehow picked up that skill. Maybe, just maybe, getting hit with stuff in this world let him copy those skills for himself. That was wicked convenient. So, Gluttony's skill, but with getting slapped with the attack first? That's pretty new. Anyway, Carrick was ready to end the spar, but Shutra stopped him. He jumped back in, saying he was just starting, and dang, suddenly, he was fighting way better than before. Carrick noticed the fast improvement and got a little suspicious. Shutra suddenly switched topics and asked what level Carrick was at. Carrick said he was at level 21, so our MC checked his own. Only level 7. Not cool, but he hoped to catch up. A neat trick was that he could see his stats and skills anytime, while others needed a special spell or come to a wizard to check. That gave Shutra a huge cheater bonus. He could check his stats anytime. Watching Carrick, Shutra got serious again. He didn't just want to be strong, he wanted to grow faster than anyone else. He remembered that the demon arc of Night Saga was brutal. The first prince, Zephyr, was destined to kill all his siblings, including poor Shutra, in the year 517 during the Demon Succession War. The current year, 512, he could see the time in his status windows. He had 5 years to turn the tables or things were going to get real messy. Now, he was sitting alone, thinking about his future plans, but his planning was cut short when Carrick called him to a meeting. Shutra had no idea what Carrick was talking about but followed him inside a tent. Turns out, it was a family meeting with his siblings. Inside, there are 7th princes and 8th princesses. The 7th prince was Chris, and the 8th princess was Caitlin. Chris told Shutra not to be shy. They were siblings, after all. Caitlin said it was their first meeting, so being awkward was normal. Chris also said he could just call them by their names. Seeing them for the first time, Shutra actually remembered that both siblings could be trouble in the game. Both of them and their mom, Queen Elaine, got killed by Zephyr right before the big massacre. Especially Caitlin, because she was the king's illegitimate kid. Suddenly, Caitlin asked why he fought red ogres instead of just patrolling. Shutra explained the fight was unexpected. Then Caitlin got worried, asking if he was okay. Since everyone knew that Shutra was, well, the weakest child of the Demon King, Shutra thought it was weird that his siblings, and especially demon siblings, were being this nice. Chris told him to be careful, or Caitlin would yell at him. For real, Shutra had never expected this level of kindness. That gave him an idea. He thought both his siblings should be aura users as lycanthropes, so he shamelessly asked for a favor, requesting Caitlin to hit him with her aura. She looked totally shocked, like, what kind of request was that? She needed a second to process. Bro, this is super funny. Imagine meeting your brother for the first time and he wants to get kicked in the ass like some kind of masochist. I would run for sure, lol. Meanwhile, on the frontline battlefield, the ogres and the lightning tribe continued to clash. One of the fire ogres tried to attack the green ogre general, Bandal. Dude, this Bandal is so big and menacing. But Bandal just finished the guy instantly and told his soldiers he would reward whoever killed the most enemies. That battle raged on. Suddenly, Shutra found himself back in the weird void. That same mysterious woman stood before him. He also saw several other strange people there, faces he didn't recognize from the game. No matter how I see it, they were some kind of god, right? Suddenly, Shutra could feel the light engulf him. Then, boom, he woke up in his own bed, with Carrick's face right next to him. Spooky. That got our boy almost passed out again. After that drama, Carrick said our protagonist got knocked out cold by Caitlin's aura attack. Good news though. Shutra could feel it and realized he had just awakened the aura skill. Now, that aura really enveloped our boy. Carrick was shocked, saying it was almost impossible. He asked if Shutra used the same trick in their last fight against the Lightning Clan. Shutra admitted it. Yes, this is how he could become stronger and stronger. Hearing that, Carrick seemed super impressed. Shutra then asked if anything big happened while he was passed out. Carrick told him that the main force had already finished the battle against the Crimson Lightning Clan. That surprised Shutra, since he thought he and his siblings were just supposed to fight a small bunch of red ogres. Carrick explained that the tribe was actually too big for their small team. When Shutra asked who led the main force, Carrick said it was General Bandal. Hearing that name, Shutra got excited. He remembered General Bandal from the game, a truly tough fighter, and actually someone he admired back when he played as Zephyr. But then reality hit. General Bandal eventually joined Zephyr's side in the year 515. Right now, Shutra knew he had a rare chance. Maybe he could recruit Bandal before Zephyr did. He even knew Bandal's favorite foods and habits from the game. The tricky part? Bandal only followed someone who beat him in a duel. Even so, Shutra made up his mind to use this knowledge to get Bandal's loyalty first. So, now we have our first slave candidate. Later, at the Moonlight siblings' camp, Shutra showed off his new beginner-level aura power. Chris was speechless. How did Shutra master aura in just one night? Shutra had a secret though. He dumped all his bonus points into aura because it boosted his physical abilities even more than telekinesis. After thinking so hard, Chris guessed it was because Shutra is Gandharva species. Welp, I thought our MC is Dark Elf. Anyway, Chris then asked Shutra if he could make a map of the underground tunnels. Shutra realized he could use his mini-map for this job, so he quickly asked for paper and pen and started drawing a detailed layout. He handed it over, and Chris was super impressed. They decided to use these secret tunnels to ambush any leftover Scarlet Lightning ogres. Most of the enemies had already been wiped out though, so it was going to be an easy cleanup. After the planning, Chris had a small favor to ask, and our boy could only wonder what it was. The next day, the favor is for Shutra to patrol with Carrick and his squad. Being the youngest, he still got all the small jobs. But Carrick seemed happy, saying it wasn't so bad since they finally had reinforcements for once. Wow. Now Shutra's ogre army was so many. He agreed, joking that it was only because of everyone's hard work and his siblings' kindness. Suddenly, he spotted his sister Caitlin sneaking behind them with her robe like she was trying to be a ninja. When he asked why he followed him, she told him to keep quiet about seeing her because she wanted to tail them secretly. Caitlin explained that she would only step in if things got really dangerous. Otherwise, she said he should handle the trouble himself since victories mean more if he earns them. Shutra thought his sister was kind of insane to be hiding in the darkness and help him when they are basically would fight to be the next Demon King, but maybe that was just how Caitlin really was. He don't know if she was stupid or just too kind. Anyway, Sarah, who seemed like Caitlin's assistant, popped up too and introduced herself. The team then moved deeper into the dwarf cave again and found a bunch of empty treasure chests. These were probably leftovers from some dwarves who had already taken all the shiny stuff for themselves. Shutra wondered out loud why even the weapons they got yesterday were tossed aside, and Karak said maybe the dwarves didn't think those weapons were worth keeping. Out of nowhere, Karak got all tense and said he felt something coming. Shutra checked his minimap and bro, there were definitely enemies headed their way. Thinking fast, he pulled out a flash spell bottle from his inventory, a special item he kept just for a moment like this. Shutra told Karak to have everyone close their eyes until he said it was safe. Karak looked confused but trusted him. The next moment, a bunch of glowing eyes appeared in the darkness, dozens of giant stone spiders. These things were not just creepy but also dangerous, since their poison could paralyze even a tough ogre. Shutra wasted no time. He tossed the flash spell at the spiders and yelled to his squad to close their eyes right before a burst of light filled the cave. The flash spell worked perfectly. These spiders lived in the dark, so the bright light left them helpless and stunned. Shutra then told everyone to attack. The ogres charged and easily wiped out the weakened spiders. But then he noticed something bigger on his map. A giant red dot, probably the boss spider. Shutra signaled Karak to follow him straight to the boss. After passing the spider army, they really found the boss spider there. Karak swung his axe at the big spider, but only managed to scratch it. Shutra realized the boss's shell was nearly invincible against normal weapons. The only way to hurt it was with fire, but he had no fire magic at all. Both of them got tense when the boss spider roared and stomped toward them. Suddenly, Caitlin, still hiding in the shadows, told Shutra to lift his sword. He did what she said and, whoa, his blade burst into flames. That was just what he needed. Caitlin asked if that was enough, and Shutra took the hint. He rushed the monster spider and sliced right through its armor with the flaming blade, destroying it in one huge hit. He even got another level up, reaching level 9. Not bad for a guy who just started fighting monsters in real life. Caitlin checked to see if he was okay, and also wanted to know what crazy trick he just pulled off. He shrugged it off, saying it was just a blessing he sometimes got. She guessed it was his Gandharva skill acting up and he went along with it, not wanting to reveal anything true about his game knowledge. He fought all kinds of monsters from the game, of course. He knew some combo to kill a mere spider. Caitlin also noticed that Shutra fought the spiders with way more skill than expected for a rookie. He just said he learned it from books, but really, he had fought these monsters a million times when playing Night Saga. Just then, Karak spotted a giant door inside the cave, so they all went over to check it out. Shutra was shocked when he recognized the markings. This was a town portal, just like he'd seen in the game. Karak asked if he knew what it was, and Shutra answered with some guesses, not wanting to look too smart. Sarah studied the patterns too, and agreed it was dwarven craft, but it needed mana to activate. Caitlin was curious where this portal would go, so Sarah suggested they look for clues. That was when Karak found a stone tablet on the wall. None of them could read the weird script, but then suddenly, Shutra just started reading it out loud. Everyone stared. He realized he could understand and speak the Dwarven language, and his system told him straight up, Dwarven language, level 1 unlocked. Even Shutra was confused about how quickly he was gaining these powers. Bro, you are MC? Just don't mind anything, and just let the writer give you another OP skill in every chapter. Anyway, Sarah pointed out more writing under the main inscription. Shutra explained that they needed to inject mana into the portal, then asked Caitlin to do it. She was surprised, but he claimed he was just bad with mana, which was a half-truth because he couldn't use magic at all. Finally, she agreed and filled the portal with her energy. Suddenly, a floating image appeared, showing Gishka Mountain's location as connected to the portal. That meant there were more tunnels, and portal number 3 was at the mountain. Finding this out, Carrick got hyped since the main enemy force was at Gishka Mountain. Shutra pointed out they now had a perfect way to ambush the Scarlet Lightning tribe. In the end, Caitlin decided that everyone should rest now and return to update Chris later. The next day, they returned to Chris. Chris was pumped about the news and gave all the credit to Shutra. Chris also insisted that his little bro deserved a reward. Shutra tried to turn him down, but Chris wasn't having it. After some thinking, Shutra made what sounded like a ridiculous request. He wanted to learn the Beast God Fist art. Hearing that, Chris was shocked because this was an S-rank secret martial art that was only supposed to be passed on in the royal family. Shutra had a reason for asking though. Weapons were still a struggle for him at his level, but a martial art like this would help. To his surprise, Chris agreed to teach him the aura techniques of the style, but not the ultra-secret moves. It's like the downgraded version. He asked Shutra if this reward was enough. Shutra was totally floored. He barely managed to say it was more than enough. Chris got all soft and asked if Shutra could call him a true brother from now on. Shutra hesitated since family was new for him, but deep down, he actually liked the idea. He shook Chris's hand, thinking maybe being brothers was a good thing. Just then, his system let him know he'd formed an alliance with the Moonlight siblings. Pretty sweet. Meanwhile, trouble was brewing. The Scarlet Lightning tribe had finished capturing a prisoner and were questioning her. It turned out the prisoner was the 6th princess, Felicia. Back at camp, Shutra checked his status screen and saw something off. Every time he leveled up, all his stats went up by 2, except his charisma, which only increased by 1. He really didn't get why. Back in his Night Saga days, looks and charisma were totally separate things. He remembered that appearance was about looking cool, but charisma was about being friendly or likable. He did not really understand why the system was doing this, but he decided not to worry about it. His stats were looking great anyway. He was almost level 10, and in the game, the heroes, like Zephyr and Locke, got awesome new powers at level 10 too. Shutra was seriously hoping he would get the same upgrade soon. Right then, Carrick showed up and told him they needed to keep moving. So Shutra stepped outside, and Carrick noticed that he seemed pretty happy. Carrick tried to ask what was up, but our boy did not say anything. He just wanted to keep his head in the mission. So, he told all his underling to start their mission. Underground, the ogres and their wolf buddies were working really hard, making the tunnels ready. Shutra and the gang stood around, watching as 2 mages checked out the big portal. Chris asked the mages what they discovered. One of them explained their guess was right. The portal led straight to the Eska River near Gishka Mountain. Well, Chris wanted to know if it was safe to use. The mage said that it was. Since dwarves built it strong as heck, both mages started up the portal together. Suddenly, a glowing gate appeared right in front of the team. Everyone was hyped. Shutra was lost in his thoughts for a second. He couldn't believe he saw the gate in real life. When he saw his team moving toward the portal, he hurried and followed, and when he stepped through, boom, he was at Gishka Mountain, right next to the Scarlet Lightning tribe's giant army. Chris looked at the enemy camp and was happy their guess was correct. He checked how many were there, and thought thousands of troops were hanging out. Chris figured, if they attacked from behind and hit the food stores, they could mess up the enemy big time. He wanted General Bandel to hit from the front to create chaos, while his team would burn all the supplies. Then, Sarah noticed there were almost no soldiers showing in the camp. Chris felt super suspicious too. Maybe the enemy was already gone. Maybe they left to fight somewhere else. Suddenly, Shutra looked something suspicious and noticed a group far away. Chris told him to use his aura vision to look closer, so Shutra did it. And, guess what? There was a whole fight happening not far away. Everyone started talking about who could be fighting the Lightning Tribe. It wasn't Bandel's army, because he was not supposed to fight yet, and this battle was too small to be the big army. Then Shutra, being a total gaming nerd, spotted a girl on the other side and figured out they were dark elves. He explained to Caitlin that he could tell by the size and because they were riding Dracos. Chris noticed that the dark elves were running away really fast, probably because they lost their leader. Karak was confused about what was going on, but Shutra was thinking hard about why the dark elves were even there. After the fight, The squad joined up with General Bandel. Bandel was super excited about the Dwarven portal news. Chris told Bandel that Shutra was the one who found it, but Shutra just said it was luck, even though he was actually really proud. General Bandel promised Shutra that he would get a cool reward at the Demon King's castle later. Then, Chris asked if Bandel knew more about the battle with the Dark Elves. Bandel answered that the Dark Elves suddenly showed up just by themselves. Chris wanted to know why, but Bandel only knew that the elves were sent to scout because of the war, and told everyone the big info, the Lightning Tribe, had captured the Dark Elves' commander. Chris realized that was probably why the Dark Elves ran away so quickly. Shutra got super curious about the elf commander. That's when Bandel dropped a surprise. The captured leader was Felicia, the 6th princess and daughter of Queen Sylvia, so she was a princess of the Dark Elves. She had a twin brother named Sylvan, the 5th prince. Hearing those names, our boy instantly remembered something. In the game, both twins were famous for fighting within the 4th Princess Anastasia's faction, and Felicia especially disliked him. So from the start, he never thought of them as allies. He started wondering why she was here. Maybe she just wanted to become famous in the war or something. Chris then asked if the Lightning Tribe even knew who they had captured. Bandel said he was not sure. Anyway, Chris decided it was time to talk about what to do next. Bandel insisted they should try to save Felicia if there was any way. Chris said maybe they could talk it out, but Bandel was straight up. He said the only way he would talk is if the Lightning Tribe came to them first, otherwise they would not make any deal. Meanwhile, Caitlin was really pushing hard to go rescue Felicia, but Chris said going straight for the enemy camp was just way too dangerous. Caitlin did not stop. She kept reminding everyone Felicia was their sister. Chris did not give in though. He said he would not risk the whole army just for one princess. You could really feel the tension between the siblings. Caitlin was determined to help her sister, and Chris was just thinking about the mission. Shutra could totally see it and started wondering what Chris's real issue was with Felicia. Finally, they came up with a plan. General Bandel would smash the front of the enemy camp, drawing off most of the warriors. While that happened, Chris and his team would attack from behind, burn all the supplies, and try to rescue Felicia if they could. Chris reminded everyone that if things started going wrong, they had to retreat fast. There was no point losing more people. Caitlin was annoyed, but Chris was not letting up. That is his final decision as the general here. That was army life, bro. Then everyone went into action. Carrick got everyone fired up for battle. On the edge of Gishka Mountain, they paused to carefully scout out the enemy base, and Chris kept his eyes glued on the camp center. Suddenly, General Bandel and his army went wild and attacked with a huge ambush. There was fire, explosions, and chaos all around. Carrick asked why they were waiting, but Shutra said they had to stay cool until they saw the signal. When Bandel's group started to pull out, Chris gave the sign and their team charged. They totally shocked the enemy with a surprise attack from behind. Shutra and Caitlin reminded each other to be careful and then split up. Then, Shutra got out his map and led his part of the team straight for the food storage. Along the way, the crew had to fight off any enemies who got close. It was getting tense, and at one point a red orc tried to sneak up on Carrick, but Shutra threw a dagger right at the orc, saving his buddy. Carrick was super impressed, asking how Shutra suddenly got so good with daggers. Shutra didn't say much, just told him to keep moving. The secret? He had learned the dagger throwing skill by accident the night before. He decided one skill more is needed. He don't want to die like a stupid character here after all. Finally, they reached the supply warehouse and got ready to burn everything. But then, Shutra stopped to think, what if Felicia was inside? If they started the fire, she might be toast by accident. He told Carrick to wait. They had to check first. Carrick complained that finding one person would take ages, but Shutra pulled out his secret weapon, the mini-map from the game. He opened it and looked for Felicia, who should show up as a special mark since she was a neutral NPC. Bro, talk about a gamer using his game skills in real life. It was insane. After using his mini-map, our boy finally spotted Felicia's unique icon. Dude was pumped. He told Carrick to follow him, and together, they dashed into one of the enemy camps. Looking around, he found Felicia tied up. She recognized him right away and wanted to know what the heck he was doing there. But Shutra was not wasting any time. He started untying her as fast as possible. There was no moment for chit-chat. Escape was everything. In his mind, he started plotting. He wanted Felicia to owe him one for saving her. Maybe a debt like that would be useful in the future, right? Once they made it outside, Shutra pushed Felicia to hurry up. He said they needed to regroup with the Moonlight siblings. Felicia was totally shocked. She could not believe that both of her siblings came to help her. Yet Shutra did not get why she was so dramatic about it. She started talking about the crazy power games inside the royal family. Isn't they and all the siblings need to fight to be a demon king? But why did he help her now? when he could let her die and kick one of the Demon King candidates. But before she could finish, Carrick freaked out. Enemies were coming in fast. Shutra called out Felicia's name to warn her. For a second, she did what he asked, but then she stopped, confused that he used her real name. Before she could question it, she spotted an incoming attack and warned him. Suddenly, a fire blast smacked into Shutra, making him shout in pain. Both Carrick and Felicia stood frozen as the flames went right over him. But then, get this, the fire bounced back at the attacker, and it was Shutra who did it. Both of them stared like he was some kind of superhero. Turns out, he just unlocked mana control and fire arrows, both at level 1. Dude was loving it. He did not hesitate. He fired his new flaming arrows right at the enemy and hit them straight up. Even at level 1, the fire arrows were deadly, easily dropping another enemy. Shutra felt epic. He finally had some serious magic skills, but there was no rest. Suddenly, another attack came from behind, a cold one this time. An ice arrow zipped through the air, but it was not aimed at him. Instead, Felicia became the target. She stepped up, looking worried for him. She won't let Shutra get hit again after the fire earlier. But our boy stopped her. In this crazy-ass MC mind, he really wanted to get hit by an ice attack, hoping he could unlock that skill too. He braced himself, and sure enough, the next ice arrow struck him. Instantly, he unlocked level 1 ice arrow. Bro, he was racking up skills like a boss. But then, the hype faded fast. A wave of exhaustion hit him hard. He checked his stats and saw only 13 HP left. Crap, one more hit and he would totally be toast. He cursed at himself for being reckless. No matter what skill he got, or how OP it is, if he died, everything gonna end. Meanwhile, Felicia looked at him and gave him attitude for shielding her. She called him the weakest among their siblings and said he was the one who needed saving. Bro, she totally misunderstood our boy. By pushing her away, she thought he was playing the hero. She then asked the real question. How bro suddenly know magic and learn it? Before he could answer that, Shutra spotted the enemy who attacked him with this ice attack had already died because of Felicia. Dude, this girl is no joke. Then Felicia pulled the ice arrow straight out of him and started healing his wound, just like a pro. At that moment, Shutra got notified he could now use level 1 healing magic. Shit. And now he could also have healing magic? Yeah. He would be OP as heck later in the manhwa. Imagine an MC that can get any skill and have protagonist plot armor. He could solo Naruto for real. Back to story. As Shutra watched the wound close, he thought his sister was actually a genius at magic. She asked if he felt better, and he told her he did. He also noticed her healing power was giving him more HP, filling his HP bar, which made her super confused. What the hell is this stupid brother saying? Before they could talk, a blood ogre slammed into the scene like a truck. Felicia was totally shocked, because she had never seen this type of monster in her life. Shutra calmly explained it was a mutated kind, way more dangerous than the regular ones. She could not believe they had to get past something so beastly. Yeah, he agreed, looking grim. When the ogre charged at them, neither dared to fight it head-on. They just turned and sprinted. No matter how they see it, this monster is too strong for them. But the blood ogre was way too fast, even though it was huge. Felicia came up with a plan. She said Shutra needed to distract the ogre, buying her time to cast a big spell. Shutra had no clue how to act as a decoy, but hey, he had to do something. When the ground exploded at the ogre's feet, Shutra got desperate and decided to aggro the beast. Felicia did not understand what the hell aggro is, but Carrick was all in. Shutra grabbed a dwarven dagger from his bag and stabbed it into the ground, using his King's Banner skill to boost Carrick's strength. The ogre charged Carrick, but Carrick took the hit and smashed the beast's chest, shoving it back hard. At the same time, Felicia cast a slick grease spell, making the ogre slip and crash to the floor. Carrick jumped up and slammed down onto the monster's chest, finally taking it out. Shutra was beyond relieved. They just beat one of the nastiest enemies around. That's when golden light suddenly surrounded him. He checked his status window and nearly fainted. He finally hit level 10. Even better, his main skill, Protagonist Setting Adjustment, went up to level 2. That unlocked a new passive, Battlefield Protection, which meant enemy long-range attacks would be less accurate against him. Basically, bro, maybe you wondered how the fuck a protagonist can dodge all the bullets shot at them? That's the skill Shutra got. This brat got a skill that lets him be slippery against long-range attacks. It was like having full-on main character plot armor. Our boy was super pumped. Anyway, Felicia shouted for his attention just as a wave of enemies charged their way. She pulled out all the stops, casting Wind Whirl and Rage. This created a mini tornado wrecking the enemy squads. But as Shutra watched her closely, he realized what she was doing was not a spell. It was actually spirit summoning. Dark elves were famous for being in tune with magic, and Felicia was a total spirit summoner. Shutra watched with envy. He really wished he could get that skill too. While all this was going down, a yellow flare shot up in the sky, signaling everyone to retreat. This is highly suspicious. The flare comes from Caitlyn's position. Not wanting to take chances, our boy decided to help Caitlyn. So he told Carrick to pull the team back, and he went toward Caitlyn. Yet, suddenly Felicia said she wanted to help him for saving her life before. To her, she is not the one who could be helped and not helping back. Give and take is her idealism. So, in the end, Felicia is tagging along behind. As they hurried to find Caitlyn, Felicia asked why he really wanted to help Caitlyn. Shutra told Felicia he was just being a good brother, but the real reason was that he was trying to keep his own alliance strong. After all, he needs their siblings' power to be a demon king himself. When they found Caitlyn, she was still in the middle of kicking butt, smacking ogres around with her fists and blasting them with fire. But two of the ogres broke through and attacked her together. She kept her cool, knocked them away with magic, and then realized Shutra and Felicia were there. Felicia just laughed. As Shutra can see, his dear sister won't need any help. That girl is annoyingly strong after all. Suddenly, Caitlyn ran over and gave Felicia a huge hug. She was stoked her sister was safe. But there was no time to celebrate, because looking at the map, Shutra saw that more enemies were coming back from the front line. So he took charge, telling them how to escape while the girls covered their backs. They all hurried through the portal together. Once inside, Caitlyn told Shutra she was amazed by how mature and smart he had become. But Felicia isn't easily convinced. She was wondering how her weak brother suddenly became this smart and strong. Suddenly, Chris showed up just then, noticing their return. Felicia tried to greet him, but he was cold with her. Chris explained that the Scarlet Lightning tribe's boss bailed out after seeing his camp go up in flames, so Bandel got the win. But because the enemy still had a chief around, Chris announced they would attack Kiram's army, the force led by Kaichan's big brother, before the Lightning tribe could join up with them. So, after Chris made his big announcement, Shutra turned to Felicia and asked why she was even there in the first place. Felicia explained that she was researching the ruins when she heard about the battle, so she rushed over to help but got captured before she could do anything helpful. But Chris doesn't seem to trust her words easily. He asked if that was the real reason, and Felicia said, "Of course it is." The siblings locked eyes with an intense gaze until Chris finally nodded and left. He asked everyone to rest from this long day. Bro, there must be something shady that happened between these two siblings. While the orc started cooking up a big meal, Shutra took a moment to check out his own skills. He felt pretty satisfied. Honestly, his list kept growing longer, and things were looking up. But suddenly, the sixth princess, Felicia, walked in and, out of nowhere, grabbed him by his clothes and yanked him closer. He stared at her in shock when she kept demanding that he take off his clothes. Talk about panic mode. But when he asked her why, the explanation was a lot less crazy than he feared. She just wanted to do a proper healing job. Earlier, it had been just a quick fix, but now she wanted to heal his injuries for real, inside and out. As she did her healing magic on him, Shutra decided to ask for a special favor, something only she could do. Well, I wonder what it is, lol. In the end, she agreed. When it was all done and she left, Shutra was pumped. He had learned not just one, but 3 healing spells, all thanks to Felicia's magic, like Cure, Poison Cure, and Disease Cure. This guy was becoming a walking toolbox of skills. But there was no time to chill because it was now time for him to learn a brand new martial art, the Beast Fist art of the werewolves, a special power used by the lycanthropes. This was a pretty big deal. The werewolf style was the foundation for all the Beast Fist arts. That's why Caitlyn, the 8th princess, offered to teach him herself. She explained that Beast Fist art used 2 kinds of aura, internal and external, but today he was starting with internal aura. Shutra closed his eyes as Caitlyn instructed, and he felt the internal aura, which was kind of like touching the power of the soul itself. Before he knew it, a message popped up saying he had acquired a protagonist physique at level 1, making his training way more efficient and letting him pick up physical skills faster. 2 more skills joined his list, and a pop-up explained that when he leveled up in a skill, he would unlock special traits for it. Man, being the protagonist came with some serious perks. He realized this passive skill was on par with Zephyr the hero and Locke the Demon King's passive skill. Shutra felt lucky and excited, so he jumped right back into practice. With the new skill, he quickly learned the basic moves. Caitlyn saw he was picking things up quickly and told him it was time to move on to the next move. But suddenly, a wolf ran up to her, looking super stressed. Caitlin understood right away. The wolf was warning them that Kairam's unit had disappeared. That was not good. So, the seventh prince called all four siblings for a quick meeting. The prince dropped some news. Kairam had figured out their plan. But General Bandol, their top guy for info, pointed at a map showing the spot where they thought Yakuzan and Kairam would meet up. The new plan became clear. They needed to team up with the general and go for an all-out battle against the Scarlet Lightning tribe. Soon, the siblings arrived at the main base of the subjugation army. Shutra saw General Bandol again and felt a weird blast of nostalgia, since in the game Bandol had always been his favorite. After some rest, Shutra had a strange dream. In it, he saw two women from before, one with two different colored eyes and the other in armor. The dream whispered about conquest and war, which totally confused him. He woke up, puzzled, and just then Karak arrived to get him moving. It was battle time, dude. On the battlefield, they got their assignments. Shutra was given the left flank. The general took the center. Chris and Caitlin led the right side, and the Dark Elves were set up for their own sneaky mission at the back. No time to space out. Suddenly, Shutra was in the middle of a huge field with thousands of orcs all around. Everyone took their positions, and then the general shouted the order to attack. The army charged at the Scarlet Lightning tribe, but it turned out the enemy knew what was up. The defenders were totally ready. As the army drew close, a giant explosion suddenly rocked the field, blasting the orcs everywhere. Dude, it was total chaos. When the dust settled, the general was stunned. There was a giant swamp mammoth standing right there. And that was not the end. More explosions kept hitting, throwing even more orcs out of the way, and more swamp mammoths just kept appearing. As if that was not wild enough, tons of lizard men crawled out of the ground, proving that the tribe had known about their whole plan from the start. This was all a trap from the beginning. With everything going south fast, Caitlin suggested backing off and waiting for a better chance. Yet Chris argued that if they took the wrong choice now, everyone could get wiped out even before they fall back. Caitlin made it clear that if they stayed, it would just mean even more casualties. Sensing the danger of delaying his decision, Chris told the mages to make a defensive line at the back. Their job was to hold off the enemies so everyone else could get ready to fall back. His last word was to make sure they fight all their base so they could meet again. Back at their main base, the seventh prince admitted that he messed up. The general gave him some advice, saying they should either retreat completely or ask for backup from the Demon King's castle. Just as the prince was about to choose, Felicia jumped in with her own idea. She explained why she was actually here. She wanted to explore some old ruin at the end of the Gishka Mountains. For 1,500 years, there was a place called Enkidu, the Earth Dragon's lair. Enkidu, a magma-born dragon, protected the lair with a bunch of treasure guardians. Some of these guardians were dwarves from the mountains, and Enkidu gave them special weapons. The anvil, which could create thunder, was a relic that let people cast giant spells and control chimeras guarding treasures. Felicia said that if they wanted to win against the Scarlet Lightning tribe, they needed that anvil. The general asked her if she knew where it was. Felicia did not have a clue. The seventh prince thought it was a stupid risk, but Shutra spoke up. He thought the anvil was real because he saw something like it in the game when he was playing as Locke. So he tried his best to convince everyone, stating he found stories about it while learning Dwarven runes. Shutra basically said he trusted Felicia and wanted to try her plan. Chris totally disagreed, but Shutra added that his own tribe, Gandharva, believed this legend too. Since the entrance to the ruins could be close, he said he would scout the area himself and take the blame if things went wrong. He really wanted to go all out and prove himself. With Felicia's magic horses, the siblings and Carrick set off. Shutra guessed it would only take 1 hour to reach the ruins because of his mini-map, but he worried about looking suspicious. Not knowing what else to say, he lied about tunnel maps being consistent. If he mixed the area's land with the tunnel's style, he claimed he could find the anvil's spot. Everyone looked a bit confused, but Felicia pretended it made sense and asked him to lead anyway. Soon, they got to a blocked entrance. Shutra asked the 8th princess to smash it. Felicia doubted the spot, but Shutra insisted it was legit and said there wouldn't be dungeon guardians this way. He also reminded her that Caitlin couldn't break through, so it had to be her. The 6th princess used her awesome destruction skills to bust it open. Rocks crashed down, and the path was clear. Inside, they saw a half-dome surrounded by pillars. They walked over, hoping the anvil was inside the dome, and then tried to figure out how to open it. Felicia spotted 9 statues around the dome, but only 3 held weapons. They figured out they needed to give the rest dwarven weapons. Good thing Shutra picked up 6 dwarven swords during his last tunnel crawl. They handed swords to the statues. Then the half-dome lit up and slowly started to open. The squad was hyped. When the half-dome was fully open, they all stared, eyes wide, at the legendary anvil that made thunder. Everyone was shocked. The sixth princess got straight to business. She told everyone that based on legends, there was a last procedure. So she asked Shutra and Karak to stay put, and had the others stand at positions like 3, 6, and 9 on a clock. She explained they needed to push magic energy into the disc, starting with her and moving clockwise, each one stronger than the last. Once everyone was in position, they sent their magic into the anvil. Boom! A huge flash shot up, and Shutra closed his eyes from the brightness. When he opened them, he was somewhere crazy, surrounded by tons of guys and monsters. He heard a rough, booming voice, and saw a terrifying dragon flying above. The voice told them to protect the dragon's nest and be the gatekeeper between the demon and human worlds. Tense, right? Then Shutra snapped awake, flat on the ground. He realized the dragon was Black Kedu, and everyone else saw the same vision. No one really got what it meant, but Felicia figured the anvil would reveal the truth. But when Felicia touched it, purple energy blasted out and hit her. Shutra tried to help and got zapped too. They were told to beat the Earth Dragon in Enkitu's mana, facing a test for those without permission. And as always, our boy got his plot armor, and after a while, the energy died down and the anvil shrank into a cool hammer. Shutra looked and saw he now had one black eye, holding the hammer. Whoa, dude. This little dude kinda aura farming. Meanwhile, things got crazy at the main base. The Scarlet Lightning tribe found them, and their boss Yakuzan ordered an attack. Their monsters and fireballs blew everything up. Chris freaked out because the others were still in the mountains, and he was almost out of options. Up on the mountain, Yakuzan watched the camp get wrecked and laughed. He tried to cast spells, but suddenly his hand stopped moving. One of their huge mammoths turned purple and spun around, attacking the tribe. Yakuzan freaked out. What the hell is happening right now when their win was in front of their eyes? Chris thought maybe his sibling actually found the anvil. Back in the mountains, Shutra finally stood up with the thunder hammer in his hand. Felicia said it looked like Enkidu picked him. Since the dragon's mana taught Shutra to use the hammer and make monsters obey, he decided to control the swamp mammoths first. He smashed the hammer on the half-dome, and just like that, all the mammoths at the base attacked the Scarlet Lightning tribe. Looking at the mammoth, Bandel finally realized the siblings had pulled off their wild plan, so he shouted for the orcs to go crush the enemy now. The orcs attacked the lizard men and ogres. The enemy chief just stood there, looking totally lost. His buddy told him they should retreat and try again later. But before they could escape, the seventh prince showed up. He offered the chief a chance to surrender, but the guy went for a sneak attack. Too bad for him, the prince used his beast god fist and knocked the chief out with just one punch. That made the rest of the Scarlet Lightning guys lose it and run away. Chris was left there, still worried about where Shutra and the princesses were. After the big battle, Karak and the rest of the team just stood there, totally blown away, watching their new swamp mammoth buddies stomp the last of the enemy stragglers. It was like having a dozen tanks on your side. The sixth princess decided to explain a bit more about how awesome the anvil was, but as she started, she suddenly lost her balance. Luckily, Sarah caught her in time and told her she needed some rest. Everyone agreed to head back, but then they noticed something super weird. Shutra was missing. So, after all the chaos was over, nobody could find him. Meanwhile, Shutra was busy leveling up big time because he had just controlled the great relic of Enkidu. His levels shot up like crazy, and a pop-up told him that his conquest level had gone up a lot too. He was pumped, bro. His main skills were way better now. While he was checking out his new skills, Caitlin showed up and gave him a smack on the head for running off without telling anyone. She yelled at him for a bit and let him know that everyone would have to sleep in the mountains tonight, since Felicia passed out and they had no way to call the magic horses. After the two got back to the main hall, Caitlin explained everything that happened while some team members helped heal the sixth princess. Since Felicia was the only one who could summon the phantom steed and she was still knocked out, everyone settled in for a night of camping and taking care of her. Later, while everyone was chilling, Shutra started thinking about how he felt zero tired, probably because of all his new level-ups. That was pretty sweet. But then he had another thought. Since they were inside a ruin, there had to be hidden loot somewhere. He figured that with the crazy power of the anvil, nothing could touch him now, not even the toughest dungeon traps or guardians. He grabbed the orc head and decided to start searching for treasure. Adventure time, dude? They wandered through the ruin, opened a door, and found, wait for it, a massive monster, the Arc Golem, lying there in griffin shape. They looked at it and slowly backed out of the room, not making a sound. No need to poke a sleeping beast, right? Luckily, in another room, they found a chamber loaded with treasure and weapons. Karak tried on a piece of armor, and Shutra felt a bit of magic in it. Turns out, it was magic armor. Shutra told Karak to keep it for himself. Then they grabbed all the useful stuff, piling it into Shutra's inventory system like some kind of loot goblin. Suddenly, Shutra noticed a closed chest in the corner. When he opened it, a secret door appeared in the wall. Now this was getting exciting. He slipped into the hidden room by himself and found a strange chamber with a purple fire in the center. Someone started calling to him from the fire. With a quick scan of the mana, Shutra realized it was Enkitu's voice. Yeah, the Earth Dragon. Floating inside that purple energy was Enkitu's gauntlet, called Earthshaker. Shutra's eyes lit up. He walked right up to grab the gauntlet, but apparently, he was supposed to be a lot stronger first before touching it. Still, Enkitu gave him the green light anyway and accepted him as the new master for the gauntlet. When the gauntlet zipped onto his hand, a big shock hit him, and then boom. His strength, magic, and stamina all went through the roof. He was feeling like an absolute boss. Bro got more OP in every minute. Damn. Karak then popped in to check on him. So Shutra quickly hid the gauntlet in his inventory. Karak said he had seen everything, which made Shutra sweat a little. He didn't want anyone learning about his secret abilities. But Karak promised to keep his mouth shut. He said they should bounce. Because, let's face it, the place was kind of spooky. Wow, Karak is so an underling's material. On their way out, Shutra spotted something that would help the sixth princess. So they grabbed that too. When they got back to the others, Shutra gave Felicia a magic recovery potion he found inside the ruin, helping her wake up. Felicia wanted to know what happened, and the eighth princess explained how Shutra found the potion. Shutra played it cool and showed off a bit, reminding everyone that he was now basically the ruler of the ruins. He told Felicia to just chill and get her magic energy back. Soon, everyone returned to the main base, totally wiped but feeling like champs. Bandel congratulated them for a job well done. Just then, the seventh prince came over from the other camp and finally gave Felicia some real praise for her great work. He told everyone to rest up. They still had to deal with the leftover Scarlet Lightning guys in about 2 weeks. Hearing that, Shutra joked that it was like a 2-week vacation, but Caitlin totally disagreed. She whispered something to him and then announced he had some business with her. What was that business? Well, it was serious training. Caitlin put Shutra through intense beast fist training, and honestly, for the first 5 days, she just wiped the floor with him. Shutra was always tired and sore, but after a week, he started figuring out her moves. By the 11th day, Shutra was finally showing some real skills. His beast fist moves and aura reached level 5. Now that's progress, dude! So, after all that hardcore training, Caitlin finally told Shutra that he could start learning the real beast fist, not just the simple stuff. Shutra got so hyped, this was what he'd been waiting for, dude. But Caitlin had more up her sleeve. She said she would teach him a new way to use aura. She told him to focus. And then, she interlocked her fingers with his. Using her mana, she created a field of aura that Shutra could totally feel. It was kind of like the beast fist, but this aura had its own vibe. The princess's aura helped guide him, and she explained that aura is life's power. When aura gets super strong, it turns into the power of the soul, and can even control the force that makes things submit or obey. Soon, their combo aura reached a next-level point, and Shutra's beast fist and aura powered way up. He got a new skill called Beast Lord Fist. That's insanely OP. Now, he was level 14. He thought that if he used this fist skill with the gauntlet, the damage from it would be able to even knock down a strong monster. But hey, little did he know, the general was secretly watching them from behind a tree. Busted! He was smiling, acknowledging that the last prince was actually really strong. The next morning, Shutra went to talk to the 8th princess. He wanted to know why Chris and Felicia seemed uneasy around each other, because he needed both of them on his team. The princess told him that there was no big problem between Chris and Felicia, but apparently the 7th prince had some beef with Felicia's brother, the 5th prince. Suddenly, Shutra remembered he used to be a super annoying enemy back when he played as Zephyr in the game. Before he could ask more, Chris showed up, acting all business, and said it was time to pack up because they were leaving in the afternoon to report their work. Right before heading out, the general came over and praised them. He even said he hoped to meet Shutra again someday. Wow, new slave incoming. Then the siblings left for the demon castle together. Their trip was pretty straightforward, but still a bit tough. First, they had to walk to the nearest teleportation circle because that's how you travel fast in this world. No inns, just hardcore camping under the stars, eating who knows what for food, and sleeping on rocks. and it took 3 whole days just to find the circle. During one of those nights, Shutra sat on a stone and wrote the names of the Demon King's first 3 kids in the sand using a stick. He felt kind of nervous about going back, because the Demon King's castle was split into 3 big factions. There was the second Prince Zephyr's squad, the first Prince Ball's faction, and the 4th Princess's gang. The royal rules were wild, because basically the strongest person gets priority for the throne, not whoever was born first. Shutra thought about how Zephyr and Ball were tough as nails, probably because they were both full-blooded draconians from their mom's side. If you had to choose, the eldest brother Ball was the nicer one, but on the inside, Shutra knew everything would get crazy soon anyway. So, he wanted to be ready for anything. His plan was simple. He needed to level up even more, fully master Earthshaker, and then make his new skill, King's Knights, as strong as possible. Later, as the group camped, Shutra unlocked King's Knights and started something called the Night Order. He checked out the details and got totally shocked. It wasn't just a boring summoning skill. It had buffs, night training, and yeah, even summoning. He wondered if it was some broken system. Bro, you always have a broken and super OP system and skill from the start? Why pretend to be shocked now? Anyway, Shutra got super excited thinking about how powerful it would be when it leveled up. While he was talking to himself about all this, Karak, the orc head, showed up, finally finding where Shutra was hiding. Karak scolded him for staying up so late when they had an early start, but Shutra just grinned and asked if Karak was down for an experiment. Karak thought about it and then agreed. So Shutra told him to kneel down on one knee, then put his sword on Karak's shoulder and said that he was appointing Karak as his knight. Right away, Karak felt something weird and said that his loyalty went way up. No joke, his actual level rose to 24, which made Shutra really proud. Karak noticed that he felt much stronger, but Shutra dodged the details and asked him if he wanted to become the strongest orc in the world. Karak just stood there, thinking, while Shutra quietly made a promise to turn him into the mightiest orc emperor ever, someone strong enough to stand shoulder to shoulder with the dragon race. The next morning, the whole squad reached the teleportation circle, and together they stepped inside. The circle glowed and sent a blast of energy shooting up into the sky. The next thing they knew, they all landed inside the demon castle. Caitlin checked to see if Shutra was alright, and he said he was good. At that moment, a big group of girls rushed over, calling Felicia's name, saying they'd been waiting for her forever. These women started complimenting the 6th princess, and treated her with a lot of respect. Shutra just stared, thinking it was like she had her own idol fan club or something. He asked Karak if those women were Felicia's attendants or soldiers. Meanwhile, Chris and Caitlin also met with a group of people, including some werewolves, who greeted them respectfully. Shutra couldn't help but feel a little left out, like he was the only guy without his own crew. Then 2 elven girls whispered about him as he walked past, and he realized it was because of his sketchy reputation back at the Demon King's castle. But guess what? Shutra didn't let it bother him. He asked Karak if he was ready to change things a little at a time from now on. Because bro, that's what heroes do, you show up, level up, and shake up the world step by step. But the road of our protagonist is not always good. Now, Shutra finally sees his own room in the castle. The place was a total mess. The room had been empty for a long time, and dust and spiderwebs were everywhere. Karak, who definitely was not impressed with the place, waved his hands around to show just how sad this room looked. Shutra just sat there. He said that at least they had a room, so that was something to be happy about. Suddenly, Karak reminded Shutra that the big official event would only start tomorrow. Until then, they could do whatever they wanted for free time. Nice, right? Well, not really. Shutra thought that free time in this dusty space was not fun. He even thought it felt like being left somewhere to rot. Yeah, not a great vibe. And then, the door made a creepy sound and slowly opened. Shutra got surprised. Who did they see? It was a pink-haired elf girl. Damn. So, Gandhavi, or whatever species Shutra identified as, is really an elf tribe? Anyway, she introduced herself as Flora Sevensword, and she worked for the Demon King's Castle Real Estate Management Bureau. Shutra was surprised that someone from such an important office would come to a place like this. But Flora told him that because his public merit level went up, he could now choose a new place to live. That was insane! Shutra's eyes got really big. This was a big deal, bro. So, suddenly, Shutra was at the Office of Public Merits. There was another elf, Isabella, who looked super serious with her glasses and hair in a bun. She told Shutra that yes, it was true. He could get a new place to live because of all the cool things he did. Isabella even made a magic screen show all of Shutra's achievements. Beating evil tribes, saving a princess, finding special artifacts. and some other crazy stuff. Dude really did a lot. Isabella said that Shutra got a major glow-up. He now had access to more cool stuff in Demon King's castle. His monthly money went up from 5 gold to 500 gold. Bro, that's a lot. And even crazier, he was the first prince to do all that on his first mission. Shutra just laughed and wanted to see his new houses right away. Next, Karak almost lost his mind. He saw Shutra's new mansion and stared at it with his jaw on the floor. The place was huge and flashy, with golden gates. Shutra just stood there looking super chill. Inside, Flora was dressed as a maid and greeted them politely. Karak was so confused. He said that Flora was from real estate, so why was she a maid now? Well, Shutra explained, kinda smug, honestly, that he used his merit points like cash and hired Flora as his butler and headmaid. Karak muttered that Shutra was talking a lot of nonsense, but hey, that's how things worked around here. Crazy, right? The next day, the mansion was busy. Karak, now looking fancy in a suit, felt super awkward. He kept saying he needed to pee because his nerves were crazy. Shutra was not happy to hear that and told Karak to go, because talking about pee was making him even more nervous. Shutra was sipping from his glass, trying to stay calm. Then, Caitlin's voice came. She said that Shutra and Karak looked amazing. Shutra turned and saw Caitlin in a dark dress, and Felicia in a cool white dress. Caitlin asked who picked their outfits, and Shutra had to admit that Felicia really did a great job. Felicia suddenly acted all proud about it. Caitlin then reminded everyone that this was Shutra's first audience ceremony. Suddenly, Chris, with his wild, lion-like hair, put his hand on Shutra's shoulder. Chris told him that today he was the main character and should show his face to the whole Demon King's castle. Hearing that, Shutra smiled and finally felt fired up. So the big moment started. The throne room doors opened wide and a giant crowd filled the place. All sorts of demons and folks were watching. Shutra walked in with Chris, Caitlin, and Felicia. He thought to himself that some people probably thought he just got lucky, but soon everyone would see the truth. He wasn't just some weak prince anymore. Lots of princes and princesses were kneeling by the throne. On top of the massive throne was Demon King Mitra, a dude so powerful that even just looking at him felt nuts. Then, this huge pressure came from the Demon King like an invisible weight. Shutra felt like his whole body was about to break. But then something wild happened in Shutra's head. A mysterious voice told him to conquer, to stand strong, and to beat that crazy pressure. The voice said that Shutra was also a king and could handle it. Shutra's eyes suddenly glowed gold, and he pushed back against the king's aura. Slowly, he looked at the Demon King with new power in his eyes, shocking everyone. Even Demon King Mitra looked a bit surprised. Then Demon King Mitra spoke Shutra's name and said that he wanted to see what Shutra would do next. Everyone was shocked to their bone. He then said he looked forward to the youngest prince's achievement. The people in there started to freak out. One person thought it was crazy and asked what was happening. Another said that the Demon King never did this before. Someone else wondered why he would talk about Shutra, who was the 9th prince, and not very famous. Meanwhile, Shutra himself was thinking that the Demon King's words sounded pretty normal, but they were special because no one ever heard them before. That was a big deal, honestly. So, he told the king that he would do everything he could to meet his expectations. In that moment, Shutra left a big, strong impression on everybody in the court. Not bad for his first time, right? He was feeling like a total boss. Later that day, in Shutra's mansion, Karak was there, going nuts. He was yelling for our boy to wake up and get up, super early in the morning. He had a letter with a big fancy seal. He said a letter had just arrived from the Office of Public Merits. Shutra wondered why they would send him something. When our protagonist read the letter, his eyes went super wide. Karak begged Shutra to say what it was. Shutra felt kind of freaked out. The letter was a personal mission from the Demon King, his own father. Next, Shutra was sitting in a room with Chris and Caitlin. Chris read the letter and said it was a mission to destroy the Cassius herd. Basically, it was a monster hunting job. Caitlin told him he would have to go to Enger Plains for that. Shutra remembered that Enger Plains was where the centaurs lived. Caitlin said she and Chris had gone there for training once. She explained that this kind of mission happened pretty much every year. Too bad she couldn't go help him because she had her own plans. Chris said it was all good, because Shutra would manage on his own. Chris then told Shutra that from now on, people would start to notice him. Some people would try to get close, and others might get suspicious. He now had to be extra careful. Shutra said he understood. He also remembered that even Zephyr, the demon prince he used to play in the game, said he had never been called by name by the king before. That meant this was really rare. Chris told Shutra to ask for help if he ever needed it, and before going, he should go see Felicia because she had something for him. In the castle hallway, Shutra and Karak walked up to Felicia. she had brought some huge, lizardy mounts for them. She said that if they were going to travel in Centaur Land, they needed strong legs, so she was giving her brother these mounts. Of course, our boy thanked her a lot. Then Felicia gave him a small, fancy box. When Shutra opened it, and boom, inside was a necklace with a shining blue crystal. He could not believe his eyes. He realized it was a dark elf's tear, which was a super special treasure. Normally, the only way to get it in the game was to kill Felicia herself, so getting it as a gift was kind of nuts. Felicia told him that her people, the Dark Elves, always remembered both kindness and payback, so Shutra should stay safe and come back. Suddenly, she gave him a big warm hug, which totally surprised our MC. He did not expect Felicia to act that way. Felicia then stepped back, looking a little embarrassed. Honestly, Shutra felt awkward too, but he told her to take care until he saw her again. Then, Shutra and Karek stepped onto a big glowing teleportation circle. Felicia told him goodbye, and the circle lit up. Fast as lightning, Shutra and Karek disappeared in a big flash of light. Now they arrived in the Enger Plains. Karek asked if they really got there, and Shutra said it seemed like they did. A girl suddenly introduced herself. She was Karma, a satyr. She had the body of a human on top and beast legs on the bottom. Pretty wild, right? She was going to be the ranger and guide them here. The group then crossed the plains. Shutra and Karek rode their big lizard mounts, and Karma ran next to them. She said it would take at least 2 days to reach where the centaurs lived, so our protagonist told her he wanted to go with almost no breaks. Well, Karma was cool with that. She asked about the soldiers, why he only came here with just one bodyguard. So, Shutra explained the mission showed up so suddenly that it was just the two of them. Karma just smiled. There would be centaurs helping, so they wouldn't be outnumbered. Shutra started thinking this would be a big group fight. He also thought that since it might turn into a battle while riding, he should use a spear. Suddenly the ground started rumbling. Shutra wondered what the noise was. Karma ran super fast up a hill to check. When she saw what was there, she got really scared. She said it could not be real. The Cassius herd had already found them. There was a huge pack of dark, wolf-like monsters with freaky, glowing eyes charging at them. A single centaur was trying to fight in the front, but all the beasts went after him and took him down. Shutra saw the monsters coming right at the centaur, so he used his magic gauntlet, Earthshaker, which started glowing with powerful golden light. He was all hyped up. It looked like the big welcome party came early, but he didn't mind, because he was actually looking for a good fight anyway. Suddenly, the lead monster started roaring, and the whole herd rushed toward them. Karma and Karek ran over, kind of freaking out. She told Shutra that he shouldn't go fight alone because it was crazy dangerous. But Shutra was like, nah, I got this, just watch. Man, Shutra was really feeling himself today. Suddenly, Shutra jumped right off his mount straight for the big boss monster. He thought he would finally try out his special beast god fist art that he had been practicing for ages. Okay, now he was cooking. The boss beast came at him with a big open mouth. Shutra's fist was burning with firepower. He punched with everything he had and used his special move, Fist of Explosion. Bro, there was a massive boom. He blew that monster's head clean off. Karek and Karma just stood there with their mouths open. They could not believe what they saw. Shutra noticed that his gauntlet, Earthquaker, made his punch way crazier than he expected. This power was almost at Caitlyn level now. Wild. After seeing this, all the other Cassius monsters totally chickened out. They stopped charging and started whining like scared puppies. People hurried over and lost it over how Shutra just owned that thing with one hit. The centaur earlier thanked our boy for saving them and said he was the scout who had been sent to help guide them. He would lead them to the centaur village from here. Things were looking up. After a long trip, they finally made it to a big centaur settlement full of tents and yurts. A quick guide about this place. There were 4 centaur tribes living on these plains: Fierce Wind, Heavy Rain, Raging Flame, and Rough Night. The Raging Flame tribe was the strongest of them all, and their boss was also the high boss for all centaurs together. This high boss came over. He was called Savage Eyes, and he was super tough looking. Just his stare alone could probably kill a man. Karak whispered that, yeah, his glare was as scary as his name. Savage Eyes welcomed Shutra and his crew and said he hoped their journey wasn't too rough. Shutra introduced himself as the 9th prince and asked what was up with the current monster situation. Inside Savage Eyes' tent, the centaur chief gave it to him straight. The Cassius herd was supposed to be way up north, but this year, they came down south earlier than ever. Scouts were out checking things, but nobody really knew why this mess was happening. Maybe some monsters just got lost. Who knows? Savage Eyes also explained that in 3 days, warriors from all 4 tribes would meet up at the settlement, and then destroy all the monsters together. That sounded like a plan. Shutra was thinking that this guy, Savage Eyes, was usually an enemy in the Night Saga game, not a buddy. But maybe, just maybe, things would be different this time. So Shutra said he understood the plan and would wait. He asked if there was anything else. Savage Eyes asked if it was true that Shutra busted a Cassius monster's head with one punch. Our MC proudly said that honestly, yeah, it was him. The Centaur man sounded impressed and said he wanted to see Shutra's skills later. Our MC thought maybe he could get this guy as an ally too, just like he had with Caitlyn and Chris. That would be cool, right? That night, in the Centaur village, Shutra and Karak walked around. The Centaurs were all talking and whispering. Some recognized Shutra as the Ninth Prince. Others said he was the guy who smashed a Cassius's skull in just one hit. Karak joked that our boy had really become popular. Shutra laughed and said it was because of his charm and good character, but right after, Karak thought maybe he shouldn't have bragged so much, bro. He then suggested Shutra should just get some rest, so Shutra went to his tent. There, while Shutra was sleeping, and kind of drooling, honestly, something crazy started happening. There was a green light, and suddenly, his gauntlet was glowing on his arm, even though he didn't remember putting it on. He opened his eyes and totally freaked out. Out of nowhere, a glowing green-haired woman with antlers appeared, floating above his bed. Man, this was getting nuts. She told Shutra that she needed his help. Shutra wondered who she was. She answered that she was the fragment of the Watcher, called Ankle, the Green Wind. Shutra thought that was a big deal because, in all the stories and the Night Saga game, Green Wind was a super important nature spirit. She was like the reason the grass in these plains stayed green, and the centaurs and satyrs totally worshipped her. Dang. Shutra was deep into something important now. Then, the dream changed fast. Suddenly he was flying through a super green beautiful world with Ankle. She showed him her home, where the real Watcher Ankle's fragment lived. He realized Ankle was one of the 6 elder dragons. These beings were so strong that, in the game you couldn't even meet them. Shutra thought his luck was kind of insane. He had just found Enkidu's Earthquaker gauntlet, and now he was face to face, well, dream to face, with another legend. Dude, his life felt like it was on easy mode or something. Yeah, of course, you are a fucking protagonist here, and the writer likes to spoil you. But then, things got serious. Ankle explained that monsters from the north were coming to destroy her home and take away all the green and healthy land. If they won, everything would go dry and dead. She said only Shutra could stop this disaster. Well, our boy wanted to help, but he was worried he wasn't strong enough. Ankle told him not to worry. He already had Enkidu's powerful gauntlet, and now she would give him even more strength. She told him to take her glowing green crystal and show it to her children, whatever that meant. Suddenly, the dream ended. Shutra woke up all sweaty and freaked out, but now he was holding that exact glowing crystal in his hand. Dude, this was no normal dream, right? So, he ran straight to Savage Eyes' tent. Shutra announced that Green Wind was in danger and that the Cassius monsters would attack the small temple in the northeast soon. Savage Eyes wasn't really sure at first. It seemed like a wild story. But then he saw the glowing green crystal in Shutra's hand and totally lost it. He said that was Green Wind's holy relic. Savage Eyes immediately switched gears and asked what he needed to do. Next thing you know, the Centaur army was already stampeding across the plains with Shutra, Karak, and Karma riding along. Our protagonist used his game-like mini-map. Yep, still cheating at life, bro, to spot the temple hidden out far in the wilderness. Good thing too, because otherwise they'd never have found it. When they reached the highest hill, they saw the temple surrounded by a massive pack of Cassius monsters. It looked super bad. Shutra wondered how those monsters even found this secret spirit spot in the first place. Something fishy was going on for sure. Savage Eyes asked Shutra if he had a plan. So, Shutra explained that Green Wind wanted him to use the power from the fragment of Ankle, and he was going to the temple. He asked the others to help keep all the monsters away from the temple doors so he could get inside. Savage Eyes gave the Centaur warriors the order to never let a single monster through. Karak and Karma also said yes, and followed Shutra, running full blast into battle. The Centaur army started the attack with a crazy volley of arrows into the horde. Then everyone jumped into the wildest melee ever. Karak made sure to yell out that it was up to Shutra to get to the temple. Karma and Karak both fought like crazy to clear a path through the monsters. Finally, they were almost to the temple. Shutra told them they did good work, but then, out of nowhere, a giant minotaur monster showed up and smashed the ground hard. The shockwave knocked Shutra right off his mount. That had to hurt. Shutra said he let his guard down. Rookie mistake, bro. The monster then raised its huge club and looked ready to flatten Shutra right there. But then, boom! Carrick jumped in front of Shutra and blocked the hit with his axe. He shouted to make sure his boss was okay and told him to get back on his feet and remember that it wasn't nap time yet. The fight definitely wasn't over. The Minotaur got even more mad and brought its giant club down again. Crap, Carrick was struggling. He was not looking too chill. Shutra, watching underlings look all cool one second and then struggling the next, basically teased him and asked what was going on. He even reminded Carrick that he gave the buff with the king's banner now, which was pretty epic if you ask me. And suddenly, some golden lights surrounded Carrick. He looked like he was leveling up in real life. With that power-up, our goat orc pushed the Minotaur with insane force. The Minotaur looked totally surprised, like, what just happened? Carrick just went bonkers with his axe, hitting the monster so many times, and then sent it flying away. He finished the Minotaur with a huge, dramatic hit right on top of its head. Dang, he was not playing around. After this win, Carrick told Shutra to move on. He said that Shutra should run into the temple and leave the rest to him. Our boy agreed and sprinted up the steps, heading inside. Now it was super dark and creepy inside this temple. Shutra entered and it felt a little spooky, but then he heard a voice, like an echo in his head. It was the voice of Einkel. She was telling him to hurry up. Our MC looked around and wondered about the green wind. Einkel's voice told him that Enkidu's artifact would show him the way. Good thing, Shutra had a magical gauntlet on his arm. This thing suddenly lit up with bright green energy, and the glowing mist started moving, showing him a path. He noticed the energy was moving deeper into the temple, so he followed it. And what did he find? Dude, there was a huge ancient tree growing smack in the middle of the temple. Its roots moved like they were alive, and handed him a shining green artifact. Our protagonist realized this was not just cool jewelry, he thought it was a dragon heart. Yup, that's the piece of magic that every dragon has inside them. So, when Einkel talked about a fragment, she really meant this dragon heart. Suddenly, Einkel showed up. She said that the Engel Plains were peaceful for a long time because of the magic she put here as the Watcher. Einkel. This whole temple was the place for that magic, and it was all built from a piece of her. If the temple was destroyed, the piece would be totally broken. So, she asked Shutra to wake up the old magic in the temple and stop that disaster from happening. Shutra thought about this old magic. It sounded super mysterious. Meanwhile, outside, the battle kept getting crazier. Savage Eyes yelled at his goons not to run away. He really didn't want anyone getting in that temple. Inside again, Einkel begged Shutra to please protect the Engel Plains and all her children, using the magic she left behind. So, Shutra put his hand on the dragon heart. Then, everything changed. He felt his mind sucked into this dark cosmic place. Suddenly, he was in front of the real Watcher Einkel, who was a giant dragon. The dragon Einkel told our boy to take it. And then, boom, he got hit with a giant rush of green energy. At the same time, outside the temple, a massive pillar of light shot out into the sky. Everyone outside, even Carrick, noticed. Carrick wondered what was going on with the prince. The light from the temple hit the ground, and roots and vines exploded out everywhere. Not only that, some crazy old guardians made of wood and stone rose up, their eyes bright green, and they started beating up the monsters like it was a wild video game. Inside the temple, Einkel was watching everything. She said that it was done. The old magic of Einkel had finally woken up, and she thanked the ninth prince for saving the Engel Plains. But then, Einkel noticed something weird. All the magic from the dragon heart was not just going into the temple, it was actually being sucked into Shutra's body. Einkel got super confused, because she honestly did not expect that to happen. What the heck was up with that? She yelled at him. If he tried to absorb all her power, it would be super dangerous, maybe even impossible for a normal body. But Shutra was not a regular guy. He was hurting bad, with his body cracking like crazy. But he did not give up. Golden flashes started flying all around him. Then, suddenly, something awesome popped up. Shutra leveled up. The system told him his level was increasing. Not once, but again and again. And Einkel could not believe what she saw. Shutra's wounds were actually healing, right in front of her eyes. That's pretty wild. Suddenly, in the middle of all this magic fever dream, a mysterious woman appeared in his mental world. The goddess told Shutra, in a super bossy way, to conquer and make everybody kneel before him, even the leftovers of old, powerful dragons. She showed him the green energy from the dragon heart and then gave it to him, and Shutra absorbed all of it. Her last word is for him to be stronger than anyone, the Knight of Conquest. And then, bam, Shutra got a whole bunch of insane new powers. He got a dragon body, then dragon blood, and his body even reached a resistance where nothing poisonous could hurt him anymore. Bro, our MC got every OP power from all Manhwa in each chapter. Anyway, Shutra woke up, a little bit confused, and checked his own stats. He saw this new thing, Dragonborn. Basically, he became a super rare being that could use wild dragon magic. He knew this because Zephyr also had this gene. Despite being a hybrid of a draconian and an asura, one day this dragon gene inside him finally woke up. Suddenly, Ankle told him that now he had both the spirit and body of a dragon, and she could feel some of her watcher magic inside him. But she was not mad, honestly. She said this power was locked away for 1,000 years, so it was cool that someone could finally use it. She called Shutra the successor of the watcher Ankle, and asked him to protect the Engel Plains and her children. Shutra gave the easiest answer ever. He agreed. No problem. So, outside, the battle was still hot. Ancient guardians were trashing most of the Cassius beasts and minotaurs. Shutra came out of the temple, glowing with his new powers, and looked down at the battlefield. He thought to himself that he spotted the real boss leading the Cassius dudes. Yup, without any doubt, he saw the real boss monster. And there he was, the mutated ogre, a super huge monster smashing guardians like they were toys. The monster let out a roar so loud you'd probably hear it from the next kingdom. Shutra then called for Carrick, who seemed a little surprised but ready to help. He wanted him to do something special. After that, the ogre spotted Shutra, who came charging in like a truck. But the ogre fought back, so he thought it was pretty fast for a monster that size. Then, he tried his special move, the Fist of Explosion, straight at the monster's belly. But dude, the ogre's skin was so thick that Shutra's blow just bounced off. He could not believe it, the hide was like armor. The ogre smacked Shutra away, sending him flying a good distance. Shutra realized his best attack did nothing, so he decided it was time for some next-level dragon magic. He called up his new skill, Dragon Blood. Purple fire exploded around him, and his Earthquaker gauntlet started showing its true power with crackling, wild energy. He was ready to bet everything on this one move. The mutated ogre charged again, axe in the air, looking totally out of control. Shutra met it with a blast of energy, and then called out for Carrick from his skill, the King's Knights. Suddenly, a big portal opened up and Carrick arrived in full armor, totally upgraded, glowing with green energy. He leaped down and struck the mutated ogre from above with his big axe. The ogre howled in pain. Shutra told the ogre that things would not be like before. This was round 2, and the prince was packing new powers. Then, channeling all the energy into his gauntlet, he unleashed the Earthquaker's super move. A massive explosion of golden and purple magic blasted everything around, shattering the mutated ogre in pure, raw power. That hit was insane. Purple and gold energy exploded everywhere, and the ogre just got wrecked, totally blown apart in one hit. Carrick and Savage Eyes watched all this and were honestly shook, like, what just happened? Our boy then landed all cool, and his magic screen started popping up notifications like crazy. He leveled up and got the title Drake Ogre Slayer. He thought to himself that if he hadn't leveled up just now, he probably would have crashed. He used so much aura. He also realized something else. To use a weapon's ultimate super move, you needed a special skill, and he did not even have that yet. That meant the attack before was not even the Earthquaker's real grand move. There was still something even cooler hidden in the gauntlet, just waiting for him to unlock it. Off to the side, Carrick called out to the prince, letting him know some of the enemy monsters were running away after seeing their boss fall. The rest of the bad guys, these giant black wolves, turned and tried to escape, but Savage Eyes was having none of that. He yelled at the allies to chase the wolves down, because nobody wanted those bad dogs coming back for payback someday. The team charged and took care of the rest, winning the day. That night, everyone celebrated at the camp. There were huge fires, people laughing, eating, and drinking under the stars. The warriors were totally relieved and in a fantastic mood, because who wouldn't be after that kind of day? But Shutra walked away from the party to a quiet spot in the moonlit forest. There, in a peaceful clearing with an ancient tree glowing green, he just wanted a break from all the noise. Suddenly, the green wind floated down. She noticed that Shutra seemed like he was having a blast, but she wondered why he came out there alone. Shutra said he had a few questions for her. Green Wind agreed to answer because he'd helped her earlier. But before they started talking, she politely asked if he could release her from his control. Shutra was like, "Wait, control?" He got confused, but Green Wind explained that because Shutra absorbed Ankle's magic, and because she was made from Ankle's power, she was basically bound to him now. Kind of awkward. Shutra did not really know how to unbind her, so he panicked a bit. Green Wind could totally tell, so she got frustrated, demanding to know why he was acting like a boss when he really had no idea what he was doing. Shutra tried to calm her down and then asked if she was uncomfortable or felt weird. Green Wind replied that she was okay, But if she disappeared, the Engel Plains would start to waste away, since she was basically the life force of the whole area. So, Shutra got an idea. He suggested that maybe Green Wind could just stay in the Engel Plains, instead of sticking with him all the time. Green Wind suddenly looked sad. She thought he was trying to dump her. Shutra was shocked and did not mean it that way at all. He asked if she actually wanted to go with him. Green Wind declared that he was her master, so of course she should go wherever he went. Shutra had to accept it. In his mind, he thought, did I just accidentally get myself a spirit partner? This is getting wild. He wanted to make sure the plains would still be safe, though, so he asked if Green Wind could leave something behind as her replacement. Green Wind said it was possible, but it would take time, and she'd be weaker for a while because most of her magic would have to stay here. Shutra was totally cool with that. Secretly, he was hyped. Forming a contract with a top-tier spirit like her was great luck. Now, Shutra had serious questions to ask. He wanted to know how Ankel died. Green Wind's face grew really sad. She said she was just a fragment without many memories, but she remembered that, 1,000 years ago, Ankel was murdered. She did not remember who the killer was, but it was definitely not some other elder dragon. Shutra was stunned. Who could kill a dragon with that much power? She then told Shutra it was weird for her master to talk to her so politely and suggested he should speak more casually. Shutra agreed, of course. Then, since he was now Ankel's successor, he wondered if he could maybe hold the power of another elder dragon too. Green Wind said that usually it was impossible, but with his unique powers, balancing the energy of two opposing dragons inside him, it might just work. Shutra could not believe it. He thought this had to be that special main character luck. He then asked her if she knew anything else about his new powers. But Green Wind admitted her knowledge was incomplete, since she didn't have all of Ankel's memories. Then, suddenly, she started shining super bright, filling the whole area with green light. Green Wind's voice, sounding deep and mystical, called him the Knight of Conquest, and said he was born to rule over everything, that it was the true power of the king. Suddenly, our boy opened his eyes. He felt totally out of it trying to remember what the heck happened. The last thing he remembered was talking to the Green Wind. Green Wind hovered over him, looking worried. She said that something wild had happened last night. The leftover consciousness of Ankel inside her came out, and that wave of power probably knocked Shutra out cold. There was a little flashback. Ankel's voice filled Shutra's mind, calling him the Knight of Conquest who would rule everything. Ankel said that this power, the power of the king, belonged to Shutra now. Shutra realized that maybe Ankel understood what his secret powers were all along. Green Wind told him that now he was her master forever. So, she needed to tell him something important that she left out yesterday. She waved her hand, and a cool-looking holographic map of the Engel Plains appeared. She pointed to the map and explained, way up at the northern edge of the Engel Plains, there was a super old relic, another artifact full of Elder Dragon power, just like his Earthquaker gauntlet. This one was called the Shield of Life. She told a wild story about the Shield of Life. Ages ago, Ankel gifted this shield to the bravest centaur warrior. The shield let him crush enemies without even getting a scratch. But get this, one night, he left the shield by the bed, and someone sent a woman to trick him and stab him. Total betrayal. The shield couldn't be taken by just anyone, so the warrior's people buried it with him way up north. Over the years, the centaurs started calling the shield White Suri, in honor of the old hero. Shutra just freaked out. In the world's legends, White Suri was the best shield ever, no player could ever find it, and it even showed up in the Night Saga backstory. Now he knew it was another Elder Dragon artifact. Green Wind asked if Shutra knew about White Suri, and he could barely hide his excitement. He wanted to know where the shield was. She then said if they went north, she could help track it down, but first, she needed to make a replacement spirit for herself. Since she couldn't leave the Engel Plains unprotected, thanks to Shutra's help, it would take about 2 days. Shutra was fine with waiting. He thought getting White Suri would make everything so much easier, especially if more trouble showed up soon. He planned to use the excuse of hunting the rest of the Cassius monsters to travel north, but he was worried. The magic protection spell they made back at the temple probably set off alarms at the Demon King's castle. He figured they would send a spy or special agent to check things out, maybe within a week, so it would be smart to leave quickly. But guess what? He didn't even have a full day, because the Centaur chieftain came running, saying someone from the Demon King's castle had already shown up. Shutra panicked and hurried to the temple main hall. And who was waiting there? None other than Felicia. She was standing in front looking totally annoyed, like Shutra was a walking problem. Shutra could not believe it. What was Felicia doing here? Karak was standing with her, waving for everyone to chill. Then, a young woman with cool teal-green skin stepped forward. She was super polite and introduced herself as Daphne, the daughter of Echo, the fifth concubine. Shutra totally recognized her from stories. She was a dryad-born druid and one of his half-siblings. According to game legend, she was super important and had to be protected at all costs. Felicia explained that Daphne was a great druid and would be useful for dealing with spirits in the plains. Daphne said she was happy to help. Hell yeah. Our boy thought he'd better make a good impression on her. But Shutra was still confused. Felicia was supposed to be heading to the Gishka Mountains to study the magical anvil. Felicia admitted she planned to, but Shutra's mission ended so fast that everyone back at headquarters was in shock. Usually, it took weeks to beat the Cassius, not just 2 days. Because so many strange things happened during the fight, she said she had to come check it out herself. If it had been someone else, they probably would have just spied on or interrogated Shutra. Felicia blushed a little and admitted she was also curious about the temple's magic and why the Cassius monsters acted so weird. Turns out, behind all her attitude, she actually cared. Shutra thanked her for worrying and then talked about his plan. He said he wanted to scout north for Cassius monsters, and of course, in his mind, it was all to find White Suri. Savage Eyes jumped in right then, saying he would go too. After all, it would be weird if the tribe's leader just sat back and let everyone else do the job. Shutra sort of agreed. Felicia then announced that she would join the trip too, saying it was better to study living Cassius than just dead ones. Our protagonist forced a smile and joked that more people was better, but in his head, he grumbled. The search for Cassius was supposed to be just a cover story. Karak, meanwhile, looked at the group and got a bad feeling. He said he knew things were about to get complicated. And he was so right. A few days later, the whole crew was traveling through the barren, rocky plains up north. Suddenly, a giant pack of huge, sharp-toothed monsters jumped out, ready to attack. Karak just gave this tired grin and said he knew this would happen. Suddenly, total chaos began. Shutra, meanwhile, looked seriously annoyed. He was facing this huge bear-like monster that was roaring right at him. The fuck? Where all these monsters came from so suddenly? Then, from above, things got worse. Some bat-looking creatures with red mohawks dropped from the sky. These things were called ghaists, and they looked super mean. Shutra looked up and thought that ghaists were always a hassle when they showed up. But then, his own eyes started glowing green, and a powerful aura surrounded him. Shutra decided he could fly too. He wasn't going to let those monsters act like they were so cool. A system window showed up, saying he had the blessing of the wind. That meant his body got super light and he could move as fast as the wind. Pretty awesome, right? Just then, Green Wind popped out and was shocked, asking how Shutra could use her magic. Shutra just ignored her and shot through the air straight at the flying ghaists. Oh. One ghaist looked up, probably thinking, uh-oh, but it was too late. Our boy blasted it right in the face with his fist of explosion. The punch was so strong that the ghaist went flying backward. Shutra told the monsters to stop getting in his way and just disappear already. He clenched his special Earthshaker gauntlet while Green Wind watched him in total shock, not even able to say anything. She started to wonder what her purpose in life really was, if her master could use her power easily without needing help. Deep stuff for a fairy, dude. Meanwhile, Felicia also enjoyed the fight. She stood with her hands out chanting and thought that this situation was actually kind of convenient because she had been looking for these monsters anyway. She floated into the air and then released a massive magical blast. The magic rained down on the ghaists, crushing a ton of them at once. Total boss move. Later, back at the forest clearing, the battle was finally over. The place looked rough. The ground was covered with the bodies of ghaists, wolves, and even some centaurs. The surviving warriors stood around, checking out the aftermath. Felicia pointed something out to Shutra. She asked if he noticed the faint purple aura around the dead bodies. Shutra looked closer and said that he could kind of see it. She then explained that it was probably some kind of curse magic. Shutra was like, a curse? That sounded bad. Felicia explained that the more powerful the monsters got from that purple energy, the more their life force was eaten up. She also said their emotions seemed dulled, like they were being controlled. Pretty creepy. She said it was definitely a curse, and someone was pulling the strings. Shutra thought to himself that this made no sense, since they had already defeated the person behind the monsters before. He wondered who could be doing it this time. Just then, Karak called out to Shutra and pointed to Daphne, who was standing apart from everyone, her back turned. He said that Daphne had been tense the whole fight, and it was probably her first real battle. Shutra agreed. Daphne seemed way less experienced than the Daphne he used to know in the game. Daphne was shivering and holding herself. She said she could feel the spirit's fear, and that the evil power was getting stronger the further north they went. Green Wind floated up to her master and said she could also sense something bad coming from the north. Shutra thought maybe there was some kind of evil being up there making that curse. Then, Savage Eyes told our boy that they would probably learn more if they went all the way to the northernmost point. He suggested checking from the observation tower at the northern border. Shutra agreed, but he thought to himself that this was supposed to be a simple mission, find the White Suri, but now it was getting way more complicated. So, that night, the group went to the observation tower. Shutra, Karak, and the others stood together on the balcony, looking out into the darkness. Karak pointed in one direction and said there was a massive gathering out there. In the distance, they saw a huge cloud of purple energy floating over a forest, with hundreds of small, dark shapes moving inside it. Felicia said that, even from far away, she could see there were probably 200 or 300 monsters. She added that only an undead could gather that many creatures together. Our MC was surprised and asked if it really was an undead. Felicia said yes, and not just any undead, a really strong one, at least as powerful as a lich. That sounded like big trouble. Suddenly, Daphne staggered back, holding her stomach like she was in pain. Karak got worried and asked if she was alright. Daphne said she was fine, but the evil energy just felt too intense. Felicia explained again that Daphne was half-spirit, so this kind of power really messed her up. She said that if they were facing a high-ranking undead, their group wasn't strong enough, they needed to get out of there. But suddenly, Felicia tensed up and her eyes went wide. She said that someone was coming their way. Shutra brought up his map to check what was going on. He wondered who could be coming and saw a bunch of blue dots moving toward him. Karak shouted for Shutra to look over there. Something was flying toward them. Before anyone could really react, dozens of flaming meteors started falling from the sky, heading straight for the tower. Shutra realized it was a trap and yelled for everyone to get out of the tower. But it was too late. The meteors slammed into the tower, causing huge explosions. Karak and the others screamed in pain and shock as the tower fell apart around them. When it was over, the observation tower was just a pile of ruins, and the purple energy from the undead horde still floated in the distance. But just when things looked super bad, Felicia did something amazing. She used her magic, and a big wave of pink energy came out of her hands. She yelled out her spell, and this powerful wind magic formed all around the group. It picked everyone up, soft as a pillow, and let them float down to the ground. They landed safely in the ruins of the broken tower, which was pretty awesome. Go, Felicia! Now they were all standing in the rubble. Felicia asked Shutra if he was okay. He said he was fine, even if he looked a little shaky. Savage Eyes also thanked Felicia, saying that they all survived because of her magic. But Felicia just stared at the giant horde of undead. She told everyone that this was not the time to celebrate. There were way too many monsters, and they needed to escape. Shutra looked around and saw they were surrounded. Everywhere he checked, there were monsters. Not good, bro. But Felicia was not giving up. She turned away, her eyes serious, and her hands glowed bright pink. She asked the others to buy her some time, saying she'd find a way to break through the blockade. Shutra agreed. He thought to himself about Felicia. She was so fucking cool. Then use his buff skill, and a surge of golden energy shot out, covering all his friends. He shouted for everyone to gather under the king's banner. That golden light gave the whole team a big boost. One warrior said he felt super strong. Even Savage Eyes was amazed by the strength shooting through his body. Even Green Wind came up to Shutra and asked if he was really planning to fight. Shutra said that there was no other choice. They had to trust Felicia's plan. Felicia floated up into the air, magic swirling around her in blue and pink colors. Shutra's own gauntlet started glowing too. He called out to everyone, telling them to get ready for battle. Then, Shutra and his squad charged straight into the army of skeletons. He yelled that they would not back down. Karak smashed skeletons with his axe, and everyone was fired up. Shutra then let loose with his big move, the Fist of Explosion. The blast just blew away dozens of skeletons, but dude, it was like they never ran out. More skeletons crawled out of the ground, and a giant skull started forming in the purple mist. That was super creepy. Our boy was getting tired. He thought to himself that this wasn't going to end unless they found whoever was leading the monsters. If they took out the leader, maybe they still had a chance. But right then, purple magic started raining down from the sky. It hit every undead and killed it on the spot. Karak was confused. What the hell is happening now? Then, from the thickest part of the undead army, something huge started to rise. It was a Lich King, bro, a giant undead dude in heavy armor, glowing with purple power. He slammed his big sword into the ground. Our protagonist thought to himself that he had finally found the real enemy. This must be the boss controlling everything. Savage Eyes wasted no time. He charged at the Lich King and swung his weapon, but the Lich King just blocked it with one hand and tossed the centaur away like he was nothing. Carrick tried to attack too, but again, the Lich King punched him hard in the chest and sent him flying. Shutra was not going to stand by and watch. It's now time for him to move. He rushed at the Lich King, his gauntlet glowing, and shouted that this was the end for the bonehead boss. He hit the Lich King with another fist of explosion. But get this, the Lich King just caught the punch. There was a huge explosion, but the Lich King didn't even budge. The force from his own attack threw Shutra backward, and he crashed into the ground, holding his chest. Man, that guy was tough. Shutra thought to himself that this enemy was way too strong. He knew that they couldn't win like this. Felicia suddenly landed in front of the hurt Shutra. She told him that he could rest now, she would handle it from here. The Lich King looked confused for a second. Shutra called out to Felicia, but she was ready to go. She stood tall in front of the Lich King, her body glowing with pink magic and runes spinning around her. She told the Lich King to come at her, calling him a bonehead. Felicia then blasted out a huge attack, and that thing smashed right into the Lich King. But the girl was not done yet. She spun backwards in the air, dodging like a pro, and started charging another spell. She was totally in the zone. Then, she whispered, "Blink," and bam! She teleported in a flash of light right above the Lich King. She aimed straight down and shot a strong blue energy sphere right at his head. The Lich King looked surprised for a second, and then, boom! The energy ball exploded on his face. The dude just could not catch a break. Down on the ground, Shutra was watching the whole fight with his mouth open. He thought that her sister was even more amazing than he expected. He could not believe that she was taking on such a monster all by herself. Suddenly, his red eye flashed with a weird green light. Then Daphne showed up, using some kind of buff magic on our hero. She asked if he was okay. She then sent out a big green wave of energy, and it spread out over all their friends fighting on the battlefield. The centaurs, other warriors, and even Carrick. Carrick started to glow with the new green energy and awake. Our boy was seriously hyped. He clenched his fists and got a huge grin on his face. He said this was the Dryad's special area buff, and Daphne was finally helping out in a big way. Then, a system message popped up in front of him. It said a new skill called Boost Skill was activated. Yeah, he got a new Dryad buff now. He was like, huh? Suddenly, blue energy started swirling all around him. He floated up a little, and streams of light twisted around him. Then another system message appeared, saying he got a new skill called Spirit Bloom. It said a spirit's power was now inside him, and all his abilities were going up. Shutra felt powerful all over his body. He remembered that in Night Saga, usually only one spirit could be inside a person, but now he had both the spirit of life and the spirit of wind at the same time. He thought it had to be because of his special main character body. Bro, being the protagonist was just wild, dude. The plot armor is armoring. Meanwhile, Felicia was starting to get tired, but she kept attacking. The Lich King was holding strong though, blocking her spells with his huge sword and arm. She blinked again and showed up right in front of the Lich King's face. She called him stubborn and tried to blast him point blank. But suddenly, something surprising happened. Out of nowhere, a huge glowing green axe swung down. It was Carrick! He yelled his battle cry as the axe smashed right into the Lich King. The Lich King looked down, super shocked. He probably did not expect that. Just then, Shutra also flew up to stand beside her. He told Felicia she did great work. Shutra's eyes were full of fire as he stared at the Lich King. He said to leave the finishing blow to him. Now, he was all covered in gold flames, punched forward with all his strength. There was a massive explosion of golden energy, and the Lich King got blasted back, his armor breaking into pieces. He landed on the ground, feeling like a champ. After the power-up, this weakened undead king is an easy target. Carrick laughed and said they could really win at this rate, then lifted his axe with a big grin, ready to finish the job. He said he would chop off the Lich King's head himself, but when he looked down at the Lich King's broken armor, he suddenly looked confused. Something is not right. All of a sudden, a crazy surge of purple, evil energy exploded out of the Lich King. Shutra saw it and freaked out as a purple energy started crawling up his own face. He yelled Carrick's name, but it was too late. The purple energy was too strong. It blasted him off his feet, and the curse mark on his cheek started to glow. Everyone had no idea what was happening. High above, Felicia watched the madness happening below. Her eyes went wide with shock and fear. She screamed our boy's name. Meanwhile, the Lich King pulled himself back together, fully reformed and looking scarier than ever. He stood over Shutra, who was now lying on the ground, totally knocked out. Far away, the story did not stop. A tiny, glowing green spirit with fairy wings zoomed through the trees. It stopped in a clearing, like it had finally found what it was looking for. The spirit thought, found it. Then, we can see a new fancy sword stuck in a big pile of rocks. This was the tomb of the warrior. Something big was waiting there, dude. A new OP weapon acquired, maybe? Back on the battlefield, Felicia was not messing around. She got mad, angry, and was now glowing with a ton of magical power. All these complicated magic circles spun around her, and it was like she powered up to max level. She won't let that ugly skeleton touch her brother. She went all out and used a spell called Triple Blast. Bro, this was no joke. She blasted the Lich King with a giant, crazy beam of multicolored magic. It was like a rainbow cannon, and it totally covered the Lich King. But when the smoke cleared, the Lich King was just standing there, looking totally fine. What the heck? That was not fair. She realized she needed to move fast, and thought about using her teleport magic, Blink. But the Lich King was faster. He picked up his giant sword and swung it, sending a huge wave of purple curse energy straight at Felicia. The attack hit hard, even destroying her magic shield. In the end, the Lich King knocked her right down to the ground. Then, a bunch of skeletons and creepy undead monsters surrounded her. She was in big trouble, dude. Meanwhile, our protagonist was still lying on the ground, totally knocked out. But inside his mind, there was a different story going on. In the darkness of his mind, a weird, echoing voice told him to get up, that this was not the time to be lazy. Then Einkel, the Green Wind, told him to wake up and use Einkel's power. Shutra was confused because he had no idea what that meant or how he was supposed to do it. Then, a green light started shining down on him. Einkel told him to remember, because he already knew the answer. Looking at the glowing green artifact, something started to click in his mind. Back on the battlefield, Shutra's eyes suddenly popped open. He thought about dragon blood, and then, boom! Some green light exploded out and shot straight up into the night sky. Felicia, who was about to get totally crushed by all the skeletons, suddenly saw a beam of green energy started raining down from the sky and killed all the undead around her. She looked up, shocked, and saw that the green light was coming to where Shutra was lying. Our protagonist got up from the ground, looking at something in front of him. Right then, a big, fancy green shield appeared in front of him, floating in the air. Of course, he recognized it. It was White Suri and wondered how it got there. After all, he came here to search for the grave where White Suri was buried. And now that thing is coming to him by itself? Then, little Einkel showed up, explained that since the start of the battle, she had been searching for where that shield was laid. Of course, leaving her master's side was risky, but thankfully, she had managed to find White Suri and make it accept a new master. That was pretty impressive, not gonna lie. Shutra could only look at Einkel and felt really grateful. But she said that they could talk about that later because they had a big problem right in front of them. The Lich King was not waiting around either. He raised his giant sword, and purple lightning crackled all over it. He smashed the sword down, and a wave of curse energy raced along the ground. Shutra was blasted backwards. He shouted as he tumbled through the air. Our hero was trying to get his balance, but the Lich King moved fast, too fast. The Lich King's skull opened up, and it started building up a huge ball of purple energy in its mouth. Shutra thought that this guy was way too quick and strong. The monster then shot a massive purple energy beam straight at him. Felicia watched all this from far away, totally horrified for her brother. The Lich King knew his energy beam hit, but then he noticed something weird. He looked down and saw that Shutra was still floating in the air, totally unharmed. Shutra was now protected by a glowing green shield on his arm. Our MC looked at the shield and was surprised when he felt the green energy pulsing around him. Einkel explained that a piece of her dragonic power had turned Shutra into a dragonborn, and now he had even more new power inside his transformed body. She asked if Shutra could feel it, the magic that the dragon Einkel had saved for 5,000 years inside White Suri. Our boy felt totally pumped. He thought that this was insane. In the absolute best way, he could feel all this power keep building up. He then gathered the power into his gauntlet, ready to do a final blow, then stared at the Lich King with a new confidence and called him a bonehead. Oh man, things were about to get wild. Shutra then looked at his new shield, wondering if he should use it this way or not. Never mind, the green energy suddenly blasted out of him. In that moment, he threw away the shield, and the skeletons around him just got wiped away like they were nothing. Talk about overpowered. Nearby, Felicia was watching all of this with her eyes wide open. She thought that this was insane and could not believe what was happening. Her brother is getting more insane in each chapter. Anyway, the Skeleton King roared so loud the ground shook. He swung his giant sword, and a huge wave of purple energy shot out, heading right for the shield. But nah, that shield easily blocked the attack like it was no big deal. Shutra did not waste any time. He launched himself into the air, flying straight at the Skeleton King. He unleashed a wild attack called Fist of Explosion. But this monster probably has 1 million HP because damn, it doesn't even flinch. The Skeleton King was not done yet. He tried to hit Shutra again, but now our protagonist dodged like a pro, then tossed his green shield like a frisbee. The shield flew through the air and smacked the monster so hard, the big guy roared again. Yet Shutra was just getting started. He jumped super high and used another move, Gigantic piston. Oof, that had to hurt. Because that hit seems to damage this damned monster. Our boy landed back on the ground, and he pointed at the boss with a lot of attitude. He decided to finish this thing. He then moved his finger, pointing at the enemy, and the shield shot out super strong, blasting the Skeleton King right in the head. The Skeleton King's head exploded into pieces. Dude, that was wild. Right away, purple curse energy started pouring out of the rest of the skeleton army. With their king gone, the curse just lost control. System messages popped up in front of Shutra, who was glowing like a champion. The system told him that he had defeated the boss, Skeleton King Valkaroba, and that his level had gone up. In fact, his level went up twice, so you already knew he was on fire. Our protagonist let out a big breath, feeling totally relieved. He thought that the Skeleton King acted all big and scary, but honestly, he was nothing special. Bro, what the fuck? You actually fight that monster for almost 5 chapters, and said it's easy? Our protagonist was kinda dumb. Anyway, another system message showed up. Shutra got a special title, Kingslayer, level 1. Not gonna lie, that sounded pretty epic. Felicia then ran up to him while the leftover monsters started fighting each other. She was excited, because the curse on the monsters was gone. She told him that it was over, and they should get out while the monsters were busy with each other. Shutra turned around and gave her a super confident smile. He agreed with her, and they were out of there. Later that night, after the long fight, the whole crew was chilling around a campfire in the forest. Shutra held the shield, and Felicia watched him, wanting to know if that was really the famous White Suri. And he told her, yeah, that it was. Savage Eyes and Karak could not believe it. He thought it was amazing that the legend of the White Suri turned out to be true. Karak just nodded. He already knew his boss was super impressed. Daphne stared at the shield too, but she had that mage sense going on. She said that there was a powerful life force inside the White Suri, but it was still holding back some of its power. Shutra was surprised to hear that. He realized that the White Suri was adjusting its power level to match him, just like Earthshaker had done before. He got excited, because he wondered how much stronger the shield could become in the future. Felicia crossed her arms and smirked. She told him that White Suri belonged to him now, and she was not going to tell the Demon King Castle about it, so he needed to take good care of the artifact. Then, the Centaur chief, Savage Eyes, also said that, from now on, his tribe would recognize Shutra as the next successor of the great warrior White Suri. He even promised that if our boy ever called, the centaurs would come help him. Hearing the juicy promise, Shutra smiled and said that he would count on them. He thought that everything had wrapped up really nicely. But then he remembered something important. Oh right, there was still treasure to collect. He is now at the tomb of the great warrior White Suri in a room full of treasure. Shutra opened a big treasure chest and pulled out a glowing golden sword. He thought that this should be the last piece of loot. But suddenly, Einkel jumped out behind him and interrupted. She said that it was not over, because her master had not praised her yet. She clung to his back, shaking him and complaining. Karak saw the spirit and freaked out, calling her a ghost. But our protagonist just laughed and said sorry. Then he patted Einkel on the head, thanking her for everything. He said that, thanks to her, they had been able to win. Einkel blushed and looked down, but she said that she would forgive Shutra this time, if he praised her a lot more. Shutra kept patting Einkel and told her again that she really was the best. The spirit looked super happy, kind of like a cute little cat. Karak watched the whole thing, totally confused but also entertained. He never knew what would happen next if he stayed near his master. Finally, the sun rose over the Anger Plains, turning into the new day. The trouble in the north was finally over, but something still felt weird deep inside. Shutra thought back to Valkaroba, the Skeleton King, and wondered if Valkaroba was really the cause of all that purple death energy. If that was true, then why did Valkaroba want to attack the north? How did he learn about the secret of the small shrine? Our boy had a lot of questions and not enough answers. He stood with Karak on a cliff, watching the sunrise. He decided that, someday, he was going to find out the true identity of the purple death energy, and of course, trying to end that nasty thing himself.